and good afternoon. You have found Oregon Camp Meeting. This is Gladstone Camp Meeting. Our theme this year, This is How I Serve. I'm Jonathan Russell. I'm so glad that you're with us today for this session. We are continuing the conversation that we started yesterday on small groups. I missed out on the conversation. Dick Dirksen was here to be your conversation partner. I'm back again this afternoon, but I'm not the focus of the show today. This session is all about small groups, and as you can see on the screen behind me, small groups on a mission. Our guest today is Dr. Don James. He has an illustrious history of small group development. He has been a professor at the seminary. He was actually my professor at the seminary, learning about small groups from him. I wasn't the best student then, but I promised him that I'll be a better student today. So, Don, let me pray for you.
Please.
And then we'll just get into the conversation.
Sounds good.
Let's pray. God in heaven, thank you so much for the gift of ministry and the gift of community. When we talk about small groups, it really is all about the connection and the community. And I pray, Lord, that as we explore this topic, as we learn more about small groups together, that you'll inspire us. Lord, I pray that you'll inspire us to take one more step toward meaningful community in our local context. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, Don, take it away.
Thank you. It's good to be here again today, and I just want to start out with a little introduction again. The reason for the 360 circle there that you see on Small Groups for Mission is that you can take any one of the three groups we're presenting, triads, ministry groups, discipleship groups. You can take any one of these groups and focus on that alone in your church. Or you can take two or all three of them and use them around the year, constantly, as a cycle takes place. And you can see that as we unfold each day, and tomorrow we'll wrap it all up. Yesterday we talked about triads and the importance of triads, groups of three, same gender, and how they relate and grow spiritually and yet still reach out and touch other people's lives. Today we want to focus more on ministry groups, what I call ministry groups. Some people call them grow groups. And of course all these groups can have different kinds of names. Basically, whatever fits your description is fine. And but what is a ministry group? What are we talking about? Here's a few facts. 3 or several individuals. A ministry group does not have to be limited to 5, 10, 15. A ministry group can take on as many people as you can teach, lead, or there's room for. Now, of course, during COVID-19, right now, you don't want your group to be more than 10. But you can go 3 to 10, or you can go more as things open up for us. They involve singles, couples, families, mixed groups of all kinds. Their learning and fellowship together takes place in these type of groups. They meet at least once a week, usually for 10 to 12 weeks. Meet for about 90 minutes each, and they're fun, they're educational, and they're relational. 3 suggestions for qualifications. Those that like to get into ministry groups are usually those who don't really wish to join a group for their total life. It's a short term, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, and they wish to form new basic friendships maybe, and feel more comfortable in a larger group setting sometimes rather than a small group setting. In addition to that, the teaching and sharing of interests and needs is basically what the groups is about. Meeting people where they're interested, some of their needs. Of course, the larger you design for your group to be, the more people are going to sign up. You can have larger groups. Spiritual growth and evangelism definitely is part of a ministry group. And it includes, and this is 3 categories you're going to hear me say over and over as we go through this presentation. It includes relational groups, need groups, and study groups. So keep those in mind. Those are very important. Relational groups, that's relating to one another and building up relationships. Meeting needs of other people. And then just studying together as a group, learning together. So these are basically 3.
So, Don, I have a quick question for you.
Go for it.
So you talk about these can be any size.
Yes.
Is there a point at which you get diminishing returns on the relational side of the small group?
I think it depends on what kind of group. I think you would get diminishing returns on a study group if it was too large.
Okay.
But then on the other hand, like we hold evangelist meetings. These are pretty large, so people could learn. That's a good question. I think that in triads, there's definitely a diminishing if you get more than 5, in triad.
Right.
In ministry groups, that's a good question. I don't think I have a cut-dried answer on that one. But anyway.
Like most things, it depends, right?
It depends. There you go. Well, it depends on the presenter. Definitely presenter.
Okay.
Some people relate better to a small group, and other presenters relate better to a large group. Okay. Absolutely, yeah. So why ministry groups? Primary focus, others. Your focus is not just your little team, but your whole group. Your focus is on the other group and building relationships with them. Larger group sometimes is better for some presenters and for some people. They don't want that real close intimacy, but they want to be part of something and learn something, but they kind of want to be back in the background so they're not seen. Friendship and fellowship just are natural in most ministry groups. Just as you meet for those 10 to 12 weeks, you find out that you'll make friends. You'll definitely make friends because the group is meeting in a common area of interest. Short term versus long term, people like the fact that it's only for 10 to 12 weeks. Their commitment is not forever, and that's a real plus for a lot of people. And so, there you go. Signing up for a ministry group is quite easy. You can do it by contacting the group leader. You can always sign up for you want to take this group. You can sign up on the internet. You can sign up on just about everywhere. They have clipboards. We'll talk about it some more, but signing up is very easy, not hard at all. Preparation is very important. This is a key, and we'll cover this in more detail. But if you have a group that you want to start at a certain time, you've got to back up 2 to 3 months earlier and start preparing for that in order to come across and be a success at it. Preparation is very important. So 3 to 4 months ahead of time, preparation. And participation, everyone participates in a ministry group that attends a ministry group. And so looking at the structure, implementation of a ministry group, basically there's 3, as I mentioned earlier, semesters that you can have. Your church can have, say, 1 ministry group session per year, but it can have as many as 3 per year if this is going to be your main focus and your only focus. In other words, it's pretty hard to have other groups going if you have this focus of ministry groups. So many churches do. I would say that these ministry groups or grow groups are becoming more and more popular. The first time I ever came across one of these groups was in Colorado. A large church there in Colorado was having these groups take place, and I was quite impressed with the success they were having. As a matter of fact, they would have times when they'd have sign-ups, and they'd open the gymnasium, and they'd have tables, and the group leaders were behind the tables, and people from the community was so used to this church doing this constantly that they would come during sign-up into the gymnasium and walk around, look at the different groups, and sign up which group they wanted to take. So basically, these groups you can run on a semester system, spring semester, which goes basically from February to April, a summer semester, June to August, and a fall semester from October through December. And
I see that you have breaks between those. You suggest that you would take about a month off in between.
Absolutely, yeah. The group itself will take a month off.
Right.
Planning still goes.
Okay.
But the group itself, it gives the group leader a break, and they don't burn out as fast that way. Matter of fact, I was reading in one book that it's real good for group leaders maybe to not lead more than twice for 2 semesters in a row, and then take a break. Don't lead the next semester. And this way they can refresh themselves and move on. Just take a look at just one semester. For instance, the spring semester goes from February to April. You have to back up and plan and strategize. And I came up with these 4 S's to tell you what you do during those months. There's a book out there, and I'll be sharing that book with you online a little bit later. It's called Activate. And Activate uses 4 F words, focus, form, fill, facilitate. As a professor, I never did like F. I always gave my students good grades because they work hard. So I went to S. S is a satisfactory. So anyway, the S's I chose here for a spring semester is shape in November. You're going to start your group in February, so you need to start shaping it, start putting it together. And in December, you want to show, and January, you want to sell, and then February, you start your group. So let's take a look at each one of these, just quick like here. For instance, in November, you want to start shaping your group. You begin shaping the plans for these spring groups. And we'll even go a little bit deeper than this as you look at this. December, you want to show your plans. You want to help show the plans for forming these spring groups by asking people to lead groups. You're going to talk to different people. You're going to advertise it during church announcements, hosts, and you begin nailing down meeting locations where people can meet. Sometimes in these ministry groups that we've held, we use different rooms in the church. The ones I like, of course, the most are the ones that are being held in homes around in the community. Locations, days, what time, and what is the curriculums, what's going to be all out. These are things you start developing in December. January, you want to start selling your group. So in January, you start promoting your group. You start advertising your group. And probably one of your website is a great place. We've advertised our groups on the website. People can go on our website and register for a group right there on the website. Newspapers. We actually put out, and several churches do that, we actually put out a little booklet. I wish I had brought some to show you. A little booklet, you turn the page, and each page advertises 1 or 2 groups. Just little comments about the group, who's leading the group, where it's meeting, what time it is. And so you're advertising throughout this whole month of January, these small groups that's going to begin in February and last until mid-April, it says. And then, of course, in February, you start the group. The group starts in February. And one of the things you do in February, just a week, 2 at the most, before the groups start, you equip your leaders. And it's just a short 3-hour equipping training process to help leaders have successful groups. So that's how you kind of organize and move through the 4 S's on shape, show, sell, start for your spring semester. And of course, you have then what I do here. Okay, let me back up here. I think I hit it too quick here. 3 semesters. Well, anyway, we're going to look at the next one.
What was interesting to me, I can see why you would only want to do 2 semesters in a row as a group leader, because as you're leading one group, you're actually laying the groundwork and planting the seeds for the next one. That seems like a big thing to keep straight.
So if you look at the fall semester, that's true, Jonathan, yes. It's busy. There's a lot of work to get done, but the rewards are just incredible. People really love these type of groups. In July, if you're going to have a fall group, you start in July. So you actually are starting to plan your groups while the other semester is going on.
Yeah.
And that sometimes gets a little crazy sometimes. But you start in July for your fall semester for October, and you start your shape again, and then you move on. Looking a little closer, it's these 4 S's. Shape. You don't begin until you count the costs. So shape takes place in the 3 semesters, takes place in November, March, and July. You always plan ahead 1 semester in advance. And your groups really only run 10. Well, I like focusing on my groups for 10 weeks. I try to push 10 weeks. Okay. But you can go as much as 12 weeks. But beyond that, you're going to be crowding the other session, and you don't want to do that.
So I see that your fourth point up there, evaluate past group success. What kind of metrics do you use? How do you measure, or how do you decide if that group worked well or not? Is it just a numbers game?
Not entirely. I think I evaluate several things. Number one, yes, if it's only 2 or 3 that show up for the group, then you know you've got a topic that's not a really great interest, or you did poor advertising, one of the two. But I also evaluate the leader, how they cover the subject, and that helps me to create even a list of those that have a natural ability to lead small groups.
Sure.
Usually you just look at things and you talk to the leaders, you talk to your team that you're working with, pulling this together, and pinpoint locations where people like to go. Sometimes people rather go to church, but some people like rather go to a small home, and then a small group. So that's shape, continue shape. Watch what days people seem to like. There's certain days of the week people are like to go to a meeting, but and other days aren't. So if you can find the good days that really work, keep that in mind. Have a variety of different kinds of groups during your session. You have new believers or finances, premarital, theological, whatever you want. Again, focus on the 3, relational, need, and study. Those 3, and we'll get into that a little bit deeper. Think about promotion, like the catalog. I talked about a catalog, a website, newspaper, even a radio station. Find a person who will write some exciting descriptions about the group. It's got to be really short, little tiny paragraph about the description of the group, but it's got to be written in such a way that it would create a lot of excitement, where people could be interested in it.
It seems like you'd also want a little truth in advertising too. Like, I don't want to necessarily show up the first week to a group that has been promoted as the next greatest and most wonderful thing, and then I'm disappointed. It seems like that could hurt the momentum of your group pretty quick.
Yes, I don't think I've had that happen yet, but
oh, good.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, though. I think that in that case, well, if people are going to come, they're going to be interested in the topic.
Okay.
And otherwise, they're not going to sign up for it because they are interested in the topic. So I think the presenter would be the main key, probably in that sense. Yeah. Shape, prepare your leader by having a train. Start working towards your training, what you're going to do in your training aspect. Set up your calendar. Establish some goals. You know how many people you want in a group.
What other goals might a group leader be looking for? Obviously, numbers are the easy
Numbers going to be one.
Okay.
And making sure that he has enough valid information in the topic he's presenting or she's presenting that will hold the interest of the people. Mm-hmm. And lay out different leadership structure and their goals. Build a list of potential leaders. That's the job of the team to constantly look out. I'm always looking out for leaders in my church.
Sure. To
move in these areas, and then establish a team leader meeting. Now, a team leader meeting is different than the group leaders. The group leaders lead the groups, but then for every 3 to 5 groups, I have a team leader.
So what do?
They basically encourage these group leaders. They'll visit the groups, each week they'll go visit a different group, and they'll just encourage them, have prayer with them, and find out if there's something they can do to help the group leader and help the group move forward fast.
Little like Moses in the wilderness.
There you go. Looking close at the second S, show. Did I hit the right one? Come follow me. I don't think that was the second S, though. Jesus said, and I'll make you fishers of men. So, show answers the questions of the leader, the topic, the location, the time. Show takes place in April, August, December before the groups start. And show this month is mostly about asking individuals to lead the group. So you've been planning, you've been strategizing, now you're going to try and pin this all down. The leaders are Christians, and preferably even members of the church. I have had someone lead a group that wasn't a member of our church, but was moving forward in Christianity. Show also includes setting up your calendar, showing the dates to officially ask individuals, schedule team meetings, get the group list ready. These three types of groups: your relational groups, your need groups, your study groups. And again, evaluate the schedules, evaluate the numbers of groups, evaluate the leaders, the strength of groups, what you think is going to take place. The third S we talked about was sell. The next month, you want to sell your group. It says, and they met day after day in the temple courts and from house to house. Your group's going to meet in small group meetings and courts at the church. We use the friendship hall. We use the library. We use the commons room. Establish a sign-up goal. How many people do you want to sign up? Some groups can only handle a certain number, especially if it's a smaller home. And then this month that you're doing this, you promote the whole month. You do everything you can every month. Sabbath, during Sabbath services, you promote these groups to your people. You set up the website and you do advertising. Just promote. This month is nothing but promoting. Have sign-up tables in the church foyer.
So I have a question about that. So you say sign up during Sabbath service. Do you put sign-ups out right away so that you're signing up week by week by week by week? Or do you kind of build up to this one glorious opportunity to sign up?
I've never done that.
Okay.
I usually go week by week for quite a while because I'm keep trying to push it.
Sure.
And we'll have a clipboard going around. People can sign up. We'll have a table out in the foyer. Different things like that, and even then, this is a month. This is actually the sell is the month before the groups start. Yeah. So I'll even have a sermon on small groups and the benefits of small groups to help promote the small groups.
In the last church I was in, we would promote these things, but for 3 or 4 weeks, we'd have all the ministries have their own little table, or all the groups have their own little table all around the foyer, down the hallway, down the next hallway. And then we would have maybe 1 or 2 Sabbaths where it was an expo, and everybody had their moment to sign up, because if it was full, it was gone. And it created a little bit of like anticipation.
Yes.
And people would want to be there on Sabbath, on that day, to sign up for their favorite group.
So as I'm listening to you, it's very interesting. You paid more attention to my class, or you did some reading after you got out of my class, because it sounds like you did a good job there. That's good. That's your selling. And share testimonies. People that's gone to groups before, let them share testimonies. Videos, dramas. Promote with newspapers and mailings, and using e-newsletter. Reach out to those who attended the group before. Reach out to them and make sure they're invited again to attend another group. Create urgency. And this is kind of what you're referring to. Maybe not do it every week, but have one. Make it urgency. Set a deadline for all sign-ups. There's a deadline. Once after you sign up, after this date, no more sign-ups. Weekly announce groups that are full. Let them know some groups are filling up fast. We've got to sign up quickly, and give the total number of sign-ups that you have in each group. Keep encouraging that. Fourth S, let's get started. Let's start that group. Careful planning puts you ahead. In the long run, hurry and scurry puts you further behind, according to the Message, Proverbs 21:5. So February, June, October are your start months. Those are the months you're going to start your groups. And I usually try to have a 3-hour training session for the leaders, just talking about the nuts and bolts of operating, what to do, what not to do to have a successful group meeting. And structure that first meeting with a group covenant for the group. The group covenant will include things like helping them to understand the importance of not missing a meeting. Each leader has developed their own syllabus. The syllabus is very important. Going back, the syllabus will be key dates that the group needs to know, or reading assignments, study assignments that they may do before they come to the group meeting each week. In that syllabus will be perhaps a week that there will not be any group meetings because of a holiday, different locations. Maybe some groups will be meeting at different locations at different times. You need to have that in your syllabus so everybody knows exactly what's taking place. Outreach projects, fun date. And that's two things that let me talk on that. In their 10 to 12 weeks group, there are two meetings that we require of all groups. One is they must have an outreach project. What does that mean? They need to do something in the community that's an outreach. They can go to a food bank and help hand out food. Some type of ministry outside their little group, what they're doing, to go out and just serve the community. And the other one is they need to pick one day a week, 1 week during that 10 to 12 weeks where they're going to do something fun. Maybe we'll have a barbecue together or, whatever, go see a waterfall, something that's different than what they're doing in the group. And so each group is required to do those two things during each semester.
What does life come to when we legislate that they have to go do something fun together?
That's pretty sad, but that's what happens sometimes, yeah. Leaders are to remind their group members each week after the meeting. Let them know let them remind them of the next meeting. Follow up with those with who missed the meeting. Give them a call. Find out what happened that you really missed them. Send out group prayer requests after each meeting. So if there's prayer requests during the meetings happens to come up, make sure that gets out to the whole group. Give pastoral care where needed as a group leader. I often tell my small group leaders, you're my associate pastors. You're closer to the people than I get. And you're meeting where they are, and that's very important. And then as a pastor, I believe in keeping contact with my leaders every week and just communicating with them, finding out how it's going. Encourage groups to multiply. In other words, a group may get too large and maybe you go into two groups, and maybe you'll redo the group next semester, but you'll have two different groups going. Hold group leader huddles and team leader huddles once or twice during the 10 weeks. Just get together with the groups, and the team leaders will get together with their groups and just find out how it's going, what we can do to improve the situation. And again, like I said, have one evangelistic project, one outreach project, where you're serving the community, and one or serving evangelism or helping others in the community. Have one fun event, and nothing. Here's a big one. Nothing preempts a group. In other words, there should be no other church activity that's competing with a small group at that time. And if there is, the small group has priority. In other words, that leader can say, we're not going to be part of that. We have a small group meeting that night. And that's very important.
Wow.
Because if a church activity is more important than the small group, it's going to destroy the small group. And I found that out in the small groups all along. Not particularly these kind of groups, but when I have the discipleship groups that we're going to be talking about, I've always said that if I have a public evangelistic series going on, each group and their leader will decide whether they're going to close down on the night that the evangelistic meetings are meeting, or whether they're going to attend the meetings, but the night they meet, they'll meet at their small group. And I've always allowed the small group leaders to make that decision with their group.
Okay.
Because if you start having church ministry programs that you have to tell your groups you can't meet, you're destroying the whole function of small groups. Mm-hmm. And it's very, very important.
Seems like that could get tricky if you have lots of groups that meet at different days and different times and all of this. Where is there room for the larger community to get together?
Sabbath.
Okay.
Sabbath morning church, Sabbath school church.
That's the one sacred space.
That's the one sacred space. Yes. Well, and you could always have a larger group meeting, like if you have these ministry groups, mm-hmm. you do have these breaks in between. You have a month break almost between each one. And so you can always plan big events for the whole large church at that time. So most of my material and things that I share with you come out of this book, Activate. It's probably one of the best books out there on these type of groups, grow groups, ministry groups. It's really, really important and good material. And so I suggest you get this. You can order through ABC, I'm sure, or you can get it online. Activate by Nelson Searcy and Couric Thomas. So let's just a little quick kind of review here. Talked about triads, and then I have ministry groups, and notice down there in the small print, basically 3 kinds of ministry groups. You have relational small groups, need-oriented small groups, and study-oriented groups. Now what I want to do with you, I want to share with you a quotation that many of you are familiar with, and it's found in Ministry of Healing, and I think that it's just incredible. I think it's Ministry of Healing. My mind slipped for a second. Anyway, Christ's method alone will give true success for reaching the people. So just think about that. There's only one way that we're going to have true success in reaching people. That's what it says. His method alone. Christ mingled, the Savior mingled with men as one who desired their good. Now, to me, that's where relational small groups fall in. And when I think of relational small groups, I'm thinking of something fun, something that people really enjoy. Maybe your 10-week relational small group will be hikes. Maybe once a week, on a certain day during the week, you'll go for a hike. Maybe a Saturday afternoon, you'll go for a hike. Why just have church members go for a hike? Why not invite your friends, your neighbors, advertise it? This month we're going to go hike up to a certain lake. Another week we're going to hike somewhere else. A 10-week in the summertime of just hiking. And you'd be surprised at people enjoying something like that. Or how about canoeing weekly? I joined one time in Michigan. I joined a canoeing, 10-week canoeing, and every day, one day a week, we'd actually go canoeing. Now, my wife and I had kayaks, so we took our kayaks. And I can remember this one time, Jonathan, it was hilarious. The person that led out this group had not checked the river ahead of time.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and the storms from the winter had blown down trees and all kinds of debris in the river.
Became an overland excursion.
It became more of an overland experience that I'll never forget. We were taking our kayaks out and putting them in. And of course, with people with canoes was heavier.
Yeah.
Oh, and it started getting dark on us. And we were not anywhere near.
Oh, my word.
Not anywhere near our destination. And it started getting, and I had my wife, I says, I want you to get out there in front, so I don't have to worry about you. I want you to get out there in front. So she took the lead. And pretty soon it's getting so she could not see where to go. And what's interesting, it's very interesting in this particular trip, was that there's a blue heron. And she'd get close to that blue heron, and the blue heron would take off and go downriver. And she basically followed that blue heron until we got to where our destination was to get out. And that's the only way she could tell which way the river was going. It was so dark. But she could see the blue heron flying. So it was kind of a unique experience, testimony she had. So golfing. How about, a lot of people like to golf. How about taking a 10 to 12-week session where you and a few friends are going to go golfing once a week on a regular basis? You know, fishing, barbecues, camping, bowling, wood carving, you name it. Anything that just gets people together to do fun things, relational, small group oriented. And
you know, I see somebody that's watching online with us, and for a long time she's been involved in a card-making group.
Card-making group.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent.
Absolutely.
Just fun time together. And it builds relationship. That's what you want to do. You want people to come to your group meeting, and you want to get better acquainted with them.
Yeah.
And build relationships. So personally, I think these are the funnest part of groups, these kind of groups, relational small groups. But then it goes on, the quote says, and then he showed his sympathy for them, and he ministered to their needs. So first he's building this relationship, relational small groups. But now he's looking at them, he's I want to meet your needs. And to me, Seventh-day Adventists have a cutting edge on this. We have so many need-oriented seminars that we use constantly in our churches. Stop smoking plans, weight control programs, all these need-oriented seminars. Why have a seminar in the church if you can have it in the home and invite you? I often said, rather than have a large cooking school in the church, I'd rather have 3 or 4 cooking schools in homes around the community. And so you need-oriented groups. You can have cooking classes. You can have house yard cleanup groups that go around from home to home and help elderly people keep their yards trimmed and cleaned up nice. Financial investing, that's a need. Anything that you can think of that is a need is a good group. Stress control, stop smoking, as we mentioned. Acts of kindness would be a fun group to have. Once a week, go out and do something kind for a family or a group or something. Divorce recovery. Laugh your way to a better marriage. I don't know if you've ever seen that. Have you ever seen that one?
That is fantastic.
That is, I would push that to be shown every semester almost. It is one of the best videos I've ever seen on marriage. It is. I never laughed so hard, and I have to humbly admit to you, John, I hate to say this, but it really helped our marriage.
Oh, did it?
It really helped our marriage. It was good. Coping with COVID-19. Boy, there's one.
Wow.
Somebody can put that together. Yeah. Exercise classes, weight control classes. So anything to sympathize with people and meet the needs where they are is a need-oriented group. So that's your second category. The third category, he says that he won their confidence and then he bid them to follow me. And I picture this as study-oriented groups. Mm-hmm. This is now, he's made friends, he's helped their needs, Jesus did, and now he says, now let's study together. Now let me show you things that you will want to follow and follow me. And so you could do things like you could study different books or video series. Thunders in the Holy Hand is one, is a good one. Or planning a house church, or study something in the Bible like Daniel, Revelation, or Hebrews, or the Gospel of Mark. But make it in 10 to 12 weeks. Mm-hmm. And what some groups have done in the past, like on Daniel, Revelation, which is a little bit longer, they have taken 10 weeks, and then they go to the second semester and do the following 10 weeks again. So they continue on. So it's a group that continues, but it goes over 2 semesters. Okay. So some groups do that.
So is that a positive thing? Like, could you see a group continuing on to a third and a fourth and a fifth semester?
I've only seen 2 semesters, but
okay.
But I suppose if you have the interest, it definitely is positive. If the people are interested and you're holding attention, and absolutely. So let's take a look at the quote once more time, clear through. Christ's method alone will give true success in reaching the people. The Savior mingled with men as one who desired their good. He showed his sympathy for them, ministered to the needs, won their confidence, and then he bade them follow me. So he mingled with people. He desired their good, built relationships. He sympathized with them. He ministered to their needs, need-oriented groups, and then he won their confidence through study, and then follow me. Now, if you follow that progress, this is why I like these type of groups, ministry groups, programs. If you follow that process, when you're done that semester, and you've done this for a while, the next thing I say, it might be time for a reaping meeting.
Okay.
It'd be a good chance for a reaping meeting.
So I had a question about that.
Go ahead.
So in that quote that you share, classic quote, amazing quote, it talks about this progressive relationship, or progressing relationship. I know some people don't love the word progressive, but it's something that is evolving from one thing to the next to the next. You start with a relationship, you connect with the needs, you end up in discipleship and study. So for a person, if I am a member of your church, do you track with me and encourage me into a next level or a different type of group at different times? Or do we just kind of stand back and say, well, whatever you're interested in from all of this, like, grab one? Sorry to just put you on the
I think
spot.
that's a good question. I have to apologize because I think as a pastor and you're doing this ministry in your church,
Yeah.
I think in the long term I would go the route you're talking about.
Okay.
I would encourage people and even leaders to move to the next level, I have not been in a church long enough or practiced this ministry long enough to get to that stage. So basically, it's just come, grab the group you're interested in, whichever one you're interested in, grab it. But I think your thinking is good.
Build relationships, connect, let's journey together, and it sounds like that's the focus of what you're talking about,
Yeah.
regardless of kind of what piques their interest at a given time.
Okay, good. So Revelation seminars, gospel message, end time events. It could be a weekend. It could be a weekend, just a weekend series that's all about Jesus. You know.
It's a fantastic series, by the way.
Yeah. And you know, you've got the interest of a lot of people at this point. You've got the interest of a lot of people. And from here, of course, like tomorrow, we're going to take a look at discipleship groups. So we covered triads, ministry groups, and now tomorrow we're going to hit discipleship groups.
Okay.
I'm finished.
And you got to the end. Wow. Okay. Wonderful. So if you are watching with us still and you have questions for Don,
Yes.
throw them at me. I am in the chat with you. If you are in the chat, I'm with you also. So as I'm listening and as I'm absorbing and I'm going through, you have given us a great kind of 30,000-foot view of the process. If I were an elder or a deacon or deaconess, a leader in my local church, and I wanted to learn more, or I wanted to get a little more hands-on into how do I promote this, or how do I evaluate a group, or how do I even think of goals for groups, where do they go to go deeper on this?
Two places. Number one, I get the book Activate, definitely.
Okay.
And read through the book Activate. It goes in a lot more detail than I've been able to share. And the second thing is contact me. Small groups are my passion.
Okay.
And I am not, when people contact me, ask me questions, it's fine. I'll even come to the churches and do additional trainings if they want.
Really?
I will do that. You know, I'm limited.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be taking care of 2 churches. But, you know, I'm retired, but I love small groups. It's my passion. But the conference tells me because I'm retired, I'm only 3/4 time.
It gives you a
so
whole
I got
quarter.
another whole quarter time that I can spare.
Of course. I love that.
Yeah, right.
I love that. So,
but I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to
Okay.
help. I know there was a church, Riverside. Riverside had me scheduled to come and do some training. Then the COVID broke loose and kind of backed that up. COVID kind of played a nasty trick on all of us. We were moving. I'm pastoring Valley View and Ashland area.
Sure.
And we started our triads, Jonathan.
Yeah.
And we had quite a number of triads are going quite well. And then we moved into these grow groups, and I think we had about 3 semesters going, and had we had some that didn't work. We had some that worked very well.
Okay.
And then I said, okay, now I want to move into discipleship groups. And one thing I want to say about discipleship groups that you'll find out tomorrow is a good, healthy discipleship group actually includes triads and ministry groups.
Sure thing.
So it's very interesting. And we were just getting ready to move in that, and then COVID hit us. And it was such a shock, at least to me and our members, and I think most churches, that it kind of put a screeching halt to everything because we weren't sure which way to jump and what to do. So today, you know, I still have some triads meeting, and I still have some discipleship groups meeting, But now's the time to. We've been through this long enough now to get my feet back on the road and get this thing developed and become stronger and stronger.
It seems to me that in the COVID context, this is the prime way to do church.
It shouldn't have shut us down. We should have, but it just took us by surprise. It took me by surprise anyway.
Certainly.
We should have kept strong. We were right in the. I mean, we just started discipleship groups. What we did, I started a reaping series on Daniel Revelation, the book of Revelation, through the voice of prophecy, on Sabbath, and our small groups were following up on that.
Yeah.
And we just got 1 or 2 Sabbaths in, and it hit. And I should have never shut it down, but I did.
And you know, early on in the COVID pandemic, none of us were quite sure what the new reality was looking like. And
right.
I mean, I guess we have we have a question even now about what the future is going to be exactly. Looking back through it, you can go and look at what the Oregon Health Authority said and see that small groups for religious purposes were never actually closed down.
That's right.
They didn't want to make that real obvious. They wanted to be clear to everybody, stay home, lock yourself in your house, stay safe.
Right.
But Oregon has actually been rather careful to hold religious liberty issues and make sure there was space for us to meet at least in small gatherings.
Yeah. No, it's ideal. I sometimes, it's quite interesting to me. I'm a strong believer that in the last days, exactly that's what's going to happen. The last days, just before Christ comes, we're going to be shut down totally. And the only way people are going to be able to relate is through small groups.
Absolutely.
And so I kind of look at this COVID thing, I'm thinking, God has given us a chance to rehearsal right now. We need to do better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So so we're in COVID. Okay, we talked about promoting small groups. You talked about this, we're showing, and then we're promoting, selling, I think is your S. How can we sell the small group? How can we encourage sign up in an environment where many of our churches aren't meeting? Maybe this is new territory for all of us. But how do we start from today to get small groups started rolling in our own community?
If I was a pastor right now and I hadn't, I just wanted to get started.
Yeah.
I think the first thing I'd do is show this video. Get a bunch of members together, a small group, 10, 15 members that would be interested in this ministry. And first of all, start out, just show 1 of the 3 or all 3 of these videos. And get them educated. Let them see what the possibilities are, and then find out what directions they'd like to go.
Okay.
McMinnville, before COVID hit, I went and did this training in McMinnville, very similar training anyway, and it's very interesting. They chose to do triads.
All right.
And they got quite a few triads going. So I think first of all, just give the opportunity for people to take a good look at it and decide what direction they want to go. And after the video, if they want more information, here I am.
It's amazing that as we've been going through this pandemic, it has been so obvious that staying home, we're not lacking for content. We're not lacking for good preaching, for amazing worship bands, if that's your thing, or amazing hymn sings or gospel sings. You can find all of this on YouTube, which is where we are right now. But it seems like the farther we get into pandemic and the quarantines and the isolation that comes with it, the more we see a need for something more in church. And it seems to me that the kinds of things you're talking about are the structures that could allow us to stay connected.
Stay connected.
If I'm understanding what you're saying right.
I think that's what we really lacked through this COVID is staying connected. And the older the people are, the harder it is on them. I find, at least in our church, Those that are 65 and older are just devastated by this. I had some of my members saying, church is my life,
Yeah.
and now it's shut down. And so
So-
small groups are important.
So have you found a way to bridge the gap with them? I mean, I fear for our older generation in this moment because everybody has jumped toward digital. Okay? If you have an iPad, you can get the sermon, you can do all of this, and for a lot of people, it works really well. So how do we get to our older generation, our beloved generation, to help them lock into this?
The small groups that we have going right now, I have a lot of 65 plus individuals who won't even go to the small group because they're scared to death. And so one of the things I have done is I've gone back and I've tried to encourage or started encouraging my leaders to continue their small groups but add Zoom to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that older person can feel like at least they can see what's going on and
Okay.
be part of that. And so I'm hoping that some of my small groups will pick up on that, because somehow these older people are they're in need, and we've got to figure out ways to reach them and touch them.
And this disease is such a nasty one for that reason.
Yeah.
It especially isolates our older generation, and that's not good.
Not good at all.
So I want to go back. As I'm thinking about how to do all of this, I think I understand a bit about how to plan a few groups, how to kind of set a vision for them a little bit. We're recruiting group leaders. You've recruited a lot of group leaders in your life. What's the pitch that I make to them? Is it, oh, you'll make my life easier if you accept this mantle? What's the pitch that you have found makes it is successful in recruiting leaders?
When it comes to recruiting leaders, there's two areas. In discipleship groups, for instance, when I do a leadership training, it's open to anybody.
Sure.
And so my potential leaders are right there. And that really helps. In grow groups, two different things I do in these type of ministry groups is, one is I promote it to a place that if they have a hobby or an interest that they're willing to share, then they become a leader.
Okay, so instead of forming a list and saying, boy, I really want a wood carving group. Well, you learn wood carving so you can teach it. You might actually reverse the process.
Yes.
And say, oh, you're a master wood carver.
Yeah.
Would you consider teaching that over 10 weeks?
Absolutely. And then I have a huge list of all kinds of groups.
Okay.
Huge list. And if there's somebody in the congregation I'm aware of that may have an interest in that area, I will show them the material, because some of the people are thinking, what am I going to do for 10 weeks?
Yeah.
But if I show them materials, I say, hey, and I have tons of material because I've just collected them all my teaching career, and I just show them material and say, hey, here's an area that I think you might be interested. Would you be willing to lead this as a small group? And,
Okay.
And I recruit leaders that way.
So one thing that I've seen in small groups that I have seen in church or been a part of is we're going to have a cycling small group.
Okay.
And we get together, and once a week we cycle 20 miles, and we go our separate way, and we come back again, and we cycle 20 miles. And there's varying levels of connection that comes with that. So when you talk about sharing materials with a cycling group leader, what are you hoping that they are going to do through the cycling? Is it cycling for the sake of cycling? Or are you hoping that there's something that's going to come of this?
I am definitely hoping of a cycling group. I'm hoping that friendships will be built.
Okay.
In other words, I'm hoping that they don't just invite their friends.
Right.
It could be a spiritual start for a lot of people. I think that, for instance, a cycling group goes out on a cycling trip, and maybe I would not even say maybe, I would encourage the leader to have prayer with the group before we start, and for safety, etc.
Sure.
And then, as I mentioned, during that 10 weeks, have a barbecue. Do something besides just cycle.
Okay. So we're going to have fun doing something else.
Have fun doing something else, and then pick out something spiritual. We need to, as a group, we need to help others. Let's find something we can do in this community as a cycling group, and go and help, lift up, encourage, serve in the community in some way.
So you say you need to do that as a part of a small group.
I really think so.
Why?
Because we become too self-ingrown. We're too focused on ourselves.
Okay.
And we become too... I had one pastor tell me, a group that doesn't reach out ends up becoming a navel-gazing group, and that's sick.
Okay.
So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about this entire camp meeting. You know, we're talking about this aspect of serving. You know, Jesus calls us to be light, to be salt, to be in our community making positive impacts. And so, I mean, it makes sense in that context. I'm curious from your experience, when, what are the other symptoms? So you say navel gazing, but let me be honest, when I come to church and I'm sitting in the pew or I'm going to a group, I go because it makes me feel good. I go because I enjoy the company of those people. This is for my benefit. Okay? Call me a navel gazer. Okay?
Okay.
So, but the question then is, like, what else happens? Like, okay, so I enjoy going to the group. If we're not out serving, if we're not doing this, if we're only doing it for ourselves, what is the spiritual impact of that?
Well, I feel the spiritual impact is you're gonna lack growth. Head knowledge is not what God wants out of us. Okay. He wants us to reach out and minister to others. And it's true you're going to minister to the group, but even beyond that, we need to reach out and touch other people's lives. Otherwise, we don't grow. We just don't grow. We need to reach out. And this is you're hitting on a subject which is one I've wrestled with for some time. I'm not sure I have any answers yet. But like when we have grow groups, it seems like that our people, or even any kind of groups, our people really have a difficult time reaching the non-Christian, the non-Adventist Christian, I might say.
Okay.
We're real good at reaching ourselves,
yeah,
and then getting groups together. And I won't give up. I just keep striving and trying to think of ways to get our people to reach out beyond themselves and beyond our congregation.
It's a normal thing, though, to hang out with people that you have an affinity for, right? I mean, I've been going to church with these people for 30 years. Why would I want to expand my friendships? So as you've been, okay, so you don't have the answers. I'm not trying to put you on the spot to give us the ultimate answer on this issue. Do you have any inklings? Have you started to toy with any ideas that start getting us outside the bubble?
Other than modeling for them.
Okay.
Trying to encourage them. Like yesterday I mentioned studying with one of the non or pre-Adventists, and I actually introduced him to the congregation and then asked the triad if anybody'd like to have him part of the triad.
Okay.
And then, of course, the triad grabbed it right away. I think our people I think down deep inside, they want to reach out to the pre-Adventists, I'm going to call them.
Sure.
They want to reach out, but they're fearful. Like all of us, they don't like rejection. And yet we just need to encourage and model for them as much as we can and help them reach out. Right now, Ruth and I, my wife and I, are really focusing hard on 2 families in our neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, when the time is right, we will move those families into one of these groups. We'll just do that. We'll just say, hey, here's something I think you're going to be interested in.
Sounds.
So best thing you can do is just model.
Okay.
Courage. Pray.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
This is, as I hear you talk about it, it sounds like a sizable challenge for a church to move into the realm of small groups. In fact, I think maybe the only thing, I told you I wasn't a very good student in your class. I apologize for that now. One of the things I did take away was that it seemed like it's easier to start a church based on the idea of small groups than it is to walk into a church that is established and say, hey, we're going to be a small group church now. So almost all the churches that we have in Oregon are kind of traditional Adventist models.
Right.
So if I have a pastor listening, I have, something like 20 people online right now. We'll have dozens more that watch sometime in the future, we hope. If I'm a pastor right now, what is my first step toward engaging in these small groups that we're talking about?
The experts say, and I've seen it happen even in church plants, the best way to start is for the pastor to start the first small group.
Okay.
Just gather members around you and start that first small group. And basically that first small group are your future leaders. They're going to be the ones that's going to be leading the groups in the future.
Okay.
And so as you get ready to multiply and you've gone through that small group cycle and trying to encourage and at the same time train and model, they'll be the ones that will start small groups. Most of us don't like to start that way, to be honest with you. Most of us want to start out with a big bang.
Yep.
And even myself, I struggle with that. I'll have a training, and I'd rather start 4 or 5 or 6 groups than to just start one group.
Absolutely. Of course, it feels more significant. It feels more important.
You have to be prepared if you do that, though. You have to be prepared to know that not all those groups will succeed. Not all those groups will continue. You'll lose some. I can remember the first time I ever started with small groups that I started out with, I think it was 12, right off the bat, 12 small groups. And it came summertime and they shut down. And the fall, we got ready to up again, and I think one out of those 12 groups actually decided to go again.
Oh, wow.
So we had to basically start all over again. And, it's I think that if you're in an existing church, a thriving church, and you want to start small groups, start out slow, but don't get discouraged because, except for during COVID, there might be an exception. Don't expect everybody to jump on board.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're going to be disappointed. If I can get 60, 70% of my membership in small groups, I'm excited. Right now, I probably have, I'm going to guess a number, maybe 40%.
Okay.
But, it takes time. It takes time, patience. And those the other thing that is a challenge to Adventism is that, and it's better now than it was years ago, but a pastor like myself who has a burden for small groups can start the ministry and get it going and be strong in the ministry, and then the conference decides to move you.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And the pastor coming in doesn't have the same passion I do. So that's one thing that makes it very difficult for groups to continue in our churches. Now that our pastors are staying longer in churches, I'm hoping that the ministry can start growing and thriving much longer. And that's one of the disadvantages this term of being in groups is that when you look out there in the world and see these large mega churches
Yeah.
who started with small groups, their pastor's been with them all their life. And we don't have that in our system.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of work with what we have.
All right. Well, we have a little bit more time, so I have another question for you.
Okay.
You were talking about doing small group leader training as you get close to the start of small groups.
Yes.
What kinds of things end up in that training?
That's an easy question to answer. That's tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow,
Perfect.
Tomorrow that we're going to cover a leadership training as we do tomorrow.
All right. I guess on that note, let's leave it on that cliffhanger. Okay?
Okay.
Tomorrow, come back and answer the question, how do you train leaders for successful small groups? My name is Jonathan Russell. We've been with Dr. Don James talking about, well, you've been here. So, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. This is the iServe Camp meeting. We've been talking about small groups, and we'll see you tomorrow at 2:30 again. Now, if you're with us this far, we hope that you'll take a quick break and be back. Dr. Pam Strawn is in our next seminar. She will be sharing her next session on grief. Thank you so much for joining us. God bless you. We'll see you soon.